Hello, in this video we'll be looking at another great game of Garry Kasparov, this time played against Sergei Movsesian in 2000. I chose this game to show you how Kasparov seizes the initiative and converts it into decisive attack. So let's go back to the game, and of course we have a Najdorf opening. Knight f3, d6, d4, cd4, knight d4, knight f6, knight c3 and a6. Movsesian chose bishop e3, English attack, e6, f3, b5, queen d2. White follows his plan with long castle and attacking on the king side. Black develops with knight bd7, castle, bishop b7, g4. We will quickly go through the opening phase. So after knight b6, Movsesian chose queen f2. Of course, white has plenty of choices at this point, but now white has an obvious threat, knight c6 or knight f5. So in case of natural move, bishop e7, knight e6, attacking on b6 or knight f5 gets a big advantage. So queen f2, knight fd7. Black brings the knight to d7, protects the b6 knight, and of course is not under g5 attack at some point. King b1. Bishop d3 is mostly played, and after rook c8, knight ce2, but in the game it was king b1, rook c8 and bishop d3. Let's take a moment in this position and let's have a look. There are many plans like bishop e7, castle, and then to start the attack on queen side. But Kasparov makes a typical exchange on c3 with rook c3. Of course it doesn't win on spot, but it's very typical in Najdorf. bc3, queen c7 and knight e2. Now we can see that queenside pawn structure is very bad, and at some point after development with bishop e7 and castle, white king will be in danger. So bishop e7, g5. White starts to push on king side, castle and h4. Now it is all about who is going to be first in the attack. Knight a4. Kasparov improves the position of knight, and now it attacks on c3. Earlier it was played d5, h5, de4, bishop e4, f e4, but it didn't bring anything. So Kasparov improved on this game, knight a4, and Movsesian played bishop c1. In case of h5, d5 is very strong, making the bishop e7 very free, and after e d5, bishop d5 is into attack, bishop e4, bishop c4, with the idea of bishop e2, knight c3, and if bishop d3, queen a5, queen is also in attack with a lot of ideas with bishop a2 and knight c3. So let's get back to the game. Bishop c1, knight e5, h5 and d5. Of course d5 is a human move and a very good move, makes free diagonal for dark squared bishop, But there was a very interesting move like f6. This is to play another type of position, as the rook is on f8 and mysteriously attacks the f3 pawn. After gf6, bishop f6 goes into attack and stands very good on this diagonal. But of course d5 is also very good. Queen h2. Movsesian pins the knight on e5. He had, of course, other moves like h6, g6, queen g3, but after bishop d6, queen g2, rook c8, black has a good initiative. In case of e d5, bishop d5, and bishop e4, we have the similar line with bishop c4, threatening bishop e2 and knight c3, bishop d3, and queen a5. So queen h2, bishop d6. Now queen has to go, because in case of f4, de4 is very strong, sacrificing the piece, but after fe5, bishop e5, attacking the queen on h2 and the c3 pawn, queen h3, black does not take on d3, but instead takes knight c3, queen c3, and the mate on a1 is unavoidable. So, queen h3, knight d3. A very important moment. Is this bishop good on d3? Or is there something concrete after knight d3? This bishop, of course, is not good on d3, but after e d5 it might be dangerous for h7 pawn. But this is not the reason why Kasparov exchanged this bishop on d3. Knight d3, c d3. Maybe he wanted to take on c3, but of course not. After knight c3, queen c3, bishop b2, now we can see that finally the bishop is very active on long diagonal, and after queen b4, g6, the position is very messy and probably it's very good for white. So knight d3. Well, I forgot to mention about rook d3, but after de4, rook d6 is forced because after fe4 there is bishop e4 attacking two rooks. So rook d6, queen d6, if h6, g6. Black is completely winning. So knight d3, c d3, and a very concrete move, b4. I like this move very much. It opens up the file along king, and we can see that the queen on h3 is totally out of play, and the knight on e2 and the bishop on c1 is actually very badly placed, because after cb4, rook c8, white cannot defend the c2 square comfortably. King a1 was played in the game. Instead of king a1, white could go rook d2, covering c2 square, but there's the bishop coming to b4, rook b2, and knight b2, completely winning for black. Rook c8, king a1, and de4. There are many moves which lead to a big advantage, like bishop b4. Well, the immediate queen c2 is met by rook d2, bishop e4, e5, d4, bishop takes d4. Now we see a great trick if knight d4, mate in 2 with rook c1, but this time rook takes d4 and queen e2, queen f1. Queen is back in play and the position is very messy. Of course, black doesn't need it, so bishop b4 is interesting and it leads to a very big advantage because it controls the d2 square, and next is queen c2 with a lot of threats like bishop c3 mate or knight c3, queen a2 mate. So let's go back into the main line, actually the moves that were played in the game. So de4, fe4. de4 runs into bishop e5, knight d4, bishop d4, rook d4, and queen c1, the same mate. So f takes e4, and here we can see how strong is Kasparov and how he feels the dynamism and how he feels the speed of the attack. Bishop e4. A great move. Now white cannot take on e4 because of the same idea with bishop e5, knight d4, bishop d4, and mate on the first rank. Bishop e4, g6. Well, white tries to complicate the game on king side, but it doesn't help. Bishop h1, queen h1, bishop b4. Now we can see that the king on a1 is in real danger. G takes f7 and king f8. Of course, queen f7 was also possible, but when it is such situation, it's always safer to go king f8. Queen g2 and rook b8. A great move. Now we can see that the king will be cut on a1 and there is a deadly threat of bishop c3. Bishop b2, covering the c3 square, knight b2, and knight d4. Well, king b2 is no good after bishop d2, king a1, and we can see how strong this rook is on b file, because after bishop c3 or even queen c3, but of course bishop c3 wins on spot, there is a mate. So knight b2 and knight d4. White's lost hope. But we know how great Kasparov calculates, so after knight d1, the very simple and final combination, knight e6 and king f7, Movsesian resigned. Of course, taking the queen leads to a mate. Rook b2, mate is unavoidable, and queen g7, king e6, queen c7 loses after bishop c3, and queen h6, black goes king f8, and white has no more checks. So after queen g7, king e6. Yeah, we saw all the lines with queen c7 and bishop c3. And that's why Sergei Movsesian resigned here. I hope you enjoyed the game and see you in the next video.